We like sports and we don't care who knows. From shooting hoops to the Super Bowl. We like sports and we don't care who knows.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Flem and Lem. That's Lem.
That's Flem.
And we are Flem and Lem Sports Podcast. Another week of BYU football, and that means that Flem and Lem have our takes. And we are going to lay them down solid for you here today.
BYU now 1-1 on the season, coming off a pretty significant win for them at least against Tennessee at Tennessee in Rocky Top. Won at 29-26, double overtime. We were both watching. Ethan and Flem, you were working. Pretty exciting for fans, even though we'll just break it down. But regardless, they got the dub.
We're going to break it down. Yeah, maybe not nationally, not the most impressive win, but for BYU to go on the road to a SEC opponent, especially in Rocky Top, with 100,000 fans or so. It's a pretty big win, and the way it happened, pretty miraculous. But didn't start off so hot for BYU. Looked like BYU might have. I was headed down the road of 0-2, and maybe not even making a bowl game. It looked pretty bad to start with.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I thought it was rough. I thought the first 3.5 quarters, they played really poorly. Not much rhythm on the offense. Defense looked okay at times. Defensive run game, they really struggled to stop. So I really thought this was going on 0-2, leading to 0-4, leading to 0 whatever. It looked bad. But then they turned it around. Fourth quarter overtime.
Yeah, well, just to give you kind of a clue of what was going on, the defense, their first drive, Tennessee went 80 yards. Second drive, they went 60 yards. Fourth drive, they went 64 yards. Just because it seemed like we maybe a bend not break. We didn't give up many points, but we're letting them drive pretty well.
It's 13-3 at half. The BYU offense really couldn't get anything going at all. They looked out of sync. They looked slow. They looked. The play calling was a little questionable at times.
Yeah, and Zach Wilson just hasn't seemed to find any sort of a rhythm. Like coming off the Utah game, he had a couple of bad passes turn into pick sixes. This game, he came out. There's a couple plays that were pretty good, but just no real rhythm. And I don't know if that's a design or if that's just a Zach Wilson thing coming off a shoulder injury. But, yeah, kind of looking shaky.
Good news is he didn't turn the ball over, which I was impressed with, because 3 turnovers against Utah, 0 against Tennessee. That's not a surprise.
Yeah. We actually won the turnover battle.
Yeah.
For once.
If you do that, you typically have a good chance of winning.
Yeah.
But let's get to the end. What people are really talking about. So BYU's going down the field. They kick a field goal late to make it 16-13. Also, in the second half, Kavika Fanua, linebacker, gets an interception for BYU. So that was big. You kind of started to feel the wheels turning, the momentum shifting a little bit in the third, probably more of the fourth quarter. But the play, or one of the plays of the game, came on the final offensive drive in the fourth quarter for BYU. They start, and one of the plays that was really iconic that really not many people are talking about, Zach Wilson throws a ball to Matt Bushman on the right sideline. Would have been 10, 12-yard-ish gain. Yeah. Tennessee defender jumps in front, almost picks it off, and Matt Bushman turned into safety Matt Bushman and knocked the ball out of his hands. One of the biggest plays of the game, kept the turnover from happening. Obviously, that would have ended it. But then...
Yeah. It would have been over.
Yeah, literally it would have been over.
Yeah.
Right after that, though, whatever we're calling it, Simon Says, Micah Miracle, I like to call it 99.9. Zach Wilson heaves a deep ball to Micah Simon, a senior receiver, for a 64-yard play. And so let me break down my thoughts on it. Zach throws it. You see, Simon is wide open. He just ran right by the guy covering him. Catches it. I thought he was going to score it for a second. Then I realized the Tennessee defender's coming down on him. He goes down, and I forgot the college rule that the clock stops after a first down. So I was like, he didn't score. That sucks. Great play, but the game's over. But no. The clock stopped, and they were able to kick a field goal to tie it with 1 second left.
Yeah. So the clock stopped, allowed them to get to the line.
Spike
it. and then kicked the field goal. Explain why the 99.9, why you're calling it that, for those who might not know.
Yeah. So right before that play, right before the ball was snapped, BYU had a 99% chance of losing, or Tennessee had a 99% chance of winning.
Yeah.
Until that play, and then obviously BYU ended up winning. So 99.9 is what I'm calling it. 999.
Yeah. Well, that sends it. So that sets up the Jake Oldroyd field goal, which Jake the Mate, they're calling him now, has been very successful in his career, and tried to make it really close and barely squeaked it through the right upright. And when he first kicked it, I couldn't tell if it was going to be. It kind of was staying right at the upright. You couldn't tell if it was going to miss or make, and it went just inside to send it to overtime. Overtime, like, I don't know what was different, but the BYU offense looked unstoppable.
They did. They were in sync. They were ready. They were moving the ball.
In both overtimes, it took 3 plays to score a touchdown.
First overtime, it was a touchdown pass. Zach Wilson's first of the year to Talon Shumway, who he targeted quite a bit last season. Second overtime, it was Tyson Williams, the second touchdown of the game. Walked it off for the Cougars.
And to give Tennessee some credit, in the first overtime, I think it was Juwan Jennings had an incredible catch.
He did.
I mean, it was well covered. Incredible catch to send to second overtime, and then BYU defense came up big to hold him to a field goal, and Tyson was able to get in the end zone in the second overtime to win it. And just a big win in general for BYU football. What are some of your main takeaways though through the first 2 games and this game separated as well?
So let's start on defense. I mentioned it last week in Flem and Lem. Kavika Fanua, a linebacker for BYU, looked awesome. I mentioned he looked really good in the Utah game. I was really impressed with him. He just switched from running back to linebacker. But in this game, leading tackler with Tenn, had a tackle for loss and an interception. The dude was all over the field. Honestly, that might have been one of the moves of the offseason, switching him from running back to linebacker. He looked great.
He's impressive. And a stat came out today from Pro Football Focus that he's 9th in the nation in run defense percentage. So basically the percent of times you stop the run up to a certain amount of yards. Either way, it's impressive. He was 9th in the nation. So whenever you're 9th in the nation in a good stat, it's good. Don't matter what it is. So he has looked really impressive.
Going with the defense, though, the thing that hasn't looked impressive is the run defense. It's ironic that he's ranked 9th in the nation because that's probably the only positive you can talk about the BYU run defense. Here's a crazy stat for you. BYU defense, run defense, is 128th in the nation in yards per game. They're giving up 252 a game, and 128 out of 130. Yeah. Only Florida Atlantic and Liberty are below them. That is terrible.
And Florida Atlantic, I think they've played Ohio State. Who did they play second week?
They played some other.
It was another tough opponent. So and they're not BYU caliber. So
neither is Liberty.
No. So it's a little bit embarrassing. I can see why you give up so many to Zach Moss, but Tennessee didn't it's not like they have guys who you thought were going to destroy us, but I mean, they ran it for 150 plus.
So Florida Atlantic, just to put that in there, they played Ohio State week 1 and UCF, the national champs.
Almost back-to-back national champs, yeah.
To give you more stats about BYU's run defense, like I said, 128th in yards per game, tied for 121st in 10-plus yard plays, 15, 114th with yards per carry at 5.2, and back-to-back weeks of a running back having over 150 yards. Zach Moss with Utah in week 1 and Ty Chandler for the Tennessee Volunteers. Back-to-back with a single running back over 150, that is miserable.
Yeah. And what another thing that makes it bad, outside of obviously your defense is going to be giving up yards and points, presumably, is that your offense doesn't see the field.
Yeah.
Whenever they're running the ball for 150, when one running back's 150, total 200 plus, I mean, you're just not going to see the ball. I know that time possession in the Utah game was more of a thing than in the Tennessee game, but still, I mean, your offense is just not going to be on the field that long if they're running the ball the entire time down your throat. So, I mean, that's another thing to look at with giving up running plays.
What were some of your takeaways from this game?
Some of them are pretty obvious. Obviously, Tyson Williams, 20 touches overall for 100 yards. He looks impressive.
2 touchdowns.
And he's made 2 touchdowns. He's made Lopini Katoa kind of disappear off the face of the map. Which, coming in, we thought that they were going to be splitting. And Lopini does see playing time. But I think it's clear that Tyson is the number one. He's going to be the number one. And he can be a playmaker for the BYU offense. So he impressed me. Another thing I saw is that who's going to be, and this is a little bit going forward too, but who's going to be the number one receiver? Bushman's been getting double teamed, which if I was a defensive coordinator, I would too.
Yeah.
Like he's a legit talent. And so that's going to leave Micah Simon, Aleva Hifo, Talon Shumway. They're going to be open. So is Micah Simon going to be the one that steps up? I mean, he did last game. One of the plays is a fluke play, but if Bushman's going to be double teamed, who's stepping up to get open for Zach Wilson?
I think that's a great question because Matt Bushman is clearly the best receiver and the most talented.
Oh, for sure.
Receiver-wise, you could argue Tyson and him are equal as weapons, but Matt Bushman is clearly is the best. But Micah had a great game, and I'm not trying to diminish that at all. But his career high before this game was 4 receptions in a game. Like I just don't know if I see him making the jump from quality 2 or 3 guy to number 1 receiver. I mean, granted.
Well, I don't think he'll be number. Who's going to be? Yeah, other than Bushman
when he's getting double teamed.
Because Bushman's obviously the past 2 years. I mean, if you watch the games, he's targeted all the time. And when the quarterback gets in trouble, whether it was Mangum or Zach Wilson, they're looking for Bushman. But now, if Bushman's double teamed and he's not readily open and available, well, who's going to be that guy to step up? And I mean, maybe it's different every game. Maybe this is Micah's game.
It could be a receiver by committee, if you will. Or it wouldn't shock me to see Micah Simon go off is relative. It wouldn't shock me to see him be the new number 1. I know Zach last year, his targets, a lot of them were to Talon Shumway. Talon Shumway has a touchdown this year, the lone receiving one of the year. Aleva Hifo could be good.
Yeah.
Still really interested in Gunnar Romney. I would say it's probably more receiver by committee than one guy. What about you?
I think so too. There just hasn't been anyone to step up and say, wow, that's going to be the guy.
Yeah.
Like, if Bushman's not open, you got to find Micah. You got to find 11. No one's really stepped up to be that guy. Another thing is that there's still not a deep threat other than Micah. Well, there has to be a deep threat with, 17 seconds left. But they're not really throwing the ball like downfield at all. So that's something to keep your eye on for USC as well. Especially if USC, they dropped a lot of points on Stanford. And so BYU is probably going to have to score points. So how are we going to do that?
And I think that leads right into my next takeaway and my last big takeaway is just that Zach Wilson needs to be better. Week 1 against Utah, he looked lost. He looked a little uncomfortable. Week 2 versus Tennessee, a little better, but I'm just going to say these words, and I feel like quarterback hate these 2 words that I'm going to say, but he looked like a game manager. That's what he looked like, in my opinion. He threw his first touchdown pass of the year, but he only threw for 232, I think it was, which is okay, which is fine. But 64 of those came on one play.
Yeah. Well, and game manager is exactly what Tanner Mangum was, and why we all. Well, not all of us, but that's why a lot of people wanted Zach Wilson, because we thought that he was going to be big-time playmaker, throw the ball downfield, air it out, but we just haven't seen it. And according to ESPN, Garantano still had a better quarterback rating than Zach Wilson did.
Yeah.
Garantano had 2 touchdowns, but an interception, and he didn't look impressive at all.
Yeah.
And he's got a better rating. It's just kind of when is Zach Wilson going to really – is he going to do it? And if so, when is he really going to break out and start throwing the ball around the field?
Let me be clear. I don't think Zach Wilson is a game manager. I think he looked like a game manager, and this is his third.
Yeah, no.
This is his third career game against Power 5. It was his first Power 5 victory. Obviously, the other two against Utah, but it scared me a little bit. Ended up with -6 rushing yards. I mean, obviously those are sacks included. His long was 12. Like, he's talented. He's gonna find it. I just think these first 4 games are terrifying for a young quarterback. Like we shouldn't think of him as this big bad veteran. He's a sophomore who started 7 games last year.
Right, and now he's in the Lions den.
Yes.
Yeah.
There were people on Twitter comparing him to Max Hall, comparing him to McMahon.
Which is blasphemy.
It is.
Let's just put that out there.
That's exactly what that is.
No one should ever do that again.
I mean, Zach Wilson does have a chance to be really, really good. Maybe even one of the greats, so to speak.
Yeah.
But
he's got to have.
soon.
He's got to start being a little bit better.
Yep.
Okay. Well, let's just preview the upcoming matchup against USC. What we're looking for, what we're gonna look forward to, and maybe not look forward to so as much.
I gotta be honest. Out of the first 4 games, Utah, Tennessee, USC, and Washington, I thought that this game against USC, the upcoming game, was the most winnable for a long time. That's because it's at home. USC wasn't ranked. New coach. JT Daniels is young. All of this stuff. Now, I am absolutely terrified.
Yeah.
USC is now ranked. They looked dominating at Stanford. My goodness.
Well, yeah. When your freshman quarterback's throwing 370 yards against Stanford.
True freshman quarterback, first career start.
That's not necessarily comforting.
So I'm really interested to see the quarterback matchup: Wilson versus Zach Wilson versus Slovis for USC. I think this is going to be. It could be a shootout. I hope that Zach could win in this, but I am very much looking forward to this game.
Yeah, dropped to 45. Another thing that stands out from the USC Stanford game that just happened is that they held Stanford scoreless in the second half. Here's what I think. The biggest thing I think coming up in this game is will BYU be able to score enough points? And I get it, like, obviously it's cliche, you have to score more points. But I'm talking USC is going to put up probably 30 plus. I think so.
Oh, yeah.
And does BYU have the firepower to put up 30 plus with them? And
that's a great question.
Because there hasn't been firepower from the BYU offense. Like you said, there's kind of been some game managing. But when is BYU going to put up 25 plus?
Yeah.
When are they going to put up 30? And USC is going to do it, most likely. And I think that's going to be the story of the game. Is USC is going to get their points, most likely, but will BYU be able to get theirs?
Yeah. My other big question mark here is, can Kalani Sitake win a Power 5 game at home? Okay, here's a stat for you. In Independence, that's since 2011 for BYU football, they have only won 1 game at home against a ranked Power 5 opponent. So, Power 5 conference, ranked at LaBelle Stadium. It was Texas in 2013, one of the Taysom Hill games. So, you had Utah coming in this year. USC is ranked. There's a very good chance that Washington the next week comes in ranked. So, can Kalani Sitake get a win at home? He's 1-5 versus Power 5s at home since 2016, which is crazy. Can he get a big win? This would be the biggest home win of Kalani's career by far.
Oh, yeah.
By far.
If we won this game, it would obviously be the biggest win of the season. Unless, like, Boise State ended up being ranked like 15th, and we beat them too. But it's going to be a test. And Utah's a test, but Utah and BYU is a rivalry game.
Yeah.
This is a game, it's not a rivalry game. USC's just coming here for business. They don't have any, like, emotional investment into a streak or anything like that. They're coming to beat BYU by 50 and prove that they're better than their preseason ranking. And BYU's going to have to, go blow for blow with them, and we're going to see if they can do it.
I saw a post on Twitter, a tweet. It was, it said, that USC essentially doesn't have much pressure on them, and they're just emotional high, if you will, from beating Stanford, and then that might get like arrogance or cockiness. I see the complete opposite. I see
Yeah.
USC going in. Oh, we weren't ranked coming in. Oh, our starting quarterback goes down. Everyone counted us out. Okay, let's go put up 45 against Stanford. It would not shock me to see USC come in here and just absolutely demolish BYU, which saddens me. But I think
Right.
this is a legit college football team.
And we don't want to, obviously, as BYU enthusiasts, as
Yes.
we call ourselves, we don't want to see it happen, but we can see it, the possibility. So, what are your predictions for the game? And we'll go from there.
I'm going to say, first of all, I'm going to say that it wouldn't also shock me if BYU won. I wouldn't be shocked. Now, that being said, I am going to pick USC to win the game. I'm going to say they score 41 points in Provo. I just think this offense is really, really good. And I think BYU is going to be 41-21. I'm going to say USC over BYU. I think Zach Wilson's going to be better. I'm hoping they're going to let him take some shots downfield, which could lead to some big plays, could lead to some turnovers, which is part of the growing pains. But I think BYU is good, but USC is very good.
Yeah. Mine is similar. I was going to say 42, but now that since Caleb said 41, I have to go with. I'll go with 38. I'll go with less. I was going to say either 45 or 38. I don't know, but I kind of feel like they're going to put up 50 maybe.
Oh,
We'll do 40. Okay.
put it down.
All right, I'm going to do 45 to 13.
Wow.
BYU scores one touchdown, and they have 2 field goals. 45-13. I just don't see the firepower in the offense.
Yeah.
And the problem is, I think that, not that BYU doesn't have the capability to score more points, but I think that I think by the end of the first quarter, it could be 17, or it could be 14-0, 17-0 USC, or 14-3, and it could be quickly. Just take the air out of the team quickly. That's what I could see. So, yeah, unfortunately going a blowout, but I mean, that's the way it is. We call it the way we see it.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
hopefully they prove us wrong. Hopefully they prove
I
us
would-
wrong and maybe get a win.
I would love to come in next week and just realize that I was completely wrong. That'd be awesome.
And even if BYU kept it close, it'd be a win.
Yes.
So that's what BYU has coming up, and we're gonna be here for all the recap and the preview for next week, which is Washington. So stay tuned. Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it, and go Cougs.
Go Cougs.